I am 60-year-old Yo, raised my daughter, 42-year-old, as a single mom. So that means we have known each other for 42 years. When she was little, I worked in a diner during the day, and I catered on weekends to make ends meet. I did have help from my parents, thank God, or I don't know what I would have done. My uber-intelligent daughter graduated high school with high marks and got accepted to our state's most elite university. I was able to work enough extra shifts to supplement her needs, books, groceries, movies, gas, etc. But she did take loans and grants. She graduated college, has gone on to become an extremely popular third-grade teacher, and also married the district's school psychologist. She has also given birth to my two most precious grandchildren, who I would literally die for. We have always been close. She was a model child. We rarely disagreed. And my mother, she and I were like three peas to a pod. Fast forward to more recent events. After she finished her education, I decided to return to school and earn my bachelor's and master's degrees. I had left the catering business when my mother became chronically ill and spent the next 8 years solely caring for her. My income was from her and school grants. A year ago, my mother passed away. Since that time, I have struggled to find work. And I'm still in school full-time, but now I have half the income and double the expenses because Mom and I split those. In short, I have really struggled to stay in my current place. A couple of months ago, after receiving 3 job rejection emails in one day, I called my daughter to commiserate. And when I was done, I said, "I'm just not sure what I should do at this point." To which she said, "I don't know, but there is no place for you with me, so you need to figure it out." I was instantly shocked because I'm not sure that I meant for her to take me in. But okay, let's explore what you mean by that. Because surely push comes to shove. She wouldn't let me be homeless. But, she reiterated, "You cannot come to my home regardless of your circumstances, Mom. You need to figure it out." I hung up the phone on her because I felt like my heart was being ripped out of my chest. I don't think that I was contemplating moving in with her, but the fact that she didn't care that I would live on the street was suffocating me. I would never let a relative live on the street, not alone my mother. After calming down, I called her and said, "I think we need to talk this out because my feelings are so hurt that I'm afraid it is going to really hurt our relationship." She said, "I've noticed that things are getting more challenging for you, and I have been upfront in warning you that I was not taking you in." Well, I must have missed that memo. In hindsight, she did ask me things like, "What are you going to do if things don't turn around?" And she did say, while chuckling once, "If worst comes to worst, you aren't coming with me." I thought she was joking because it wasn't even what we were talking about at the time. Upon hearing that she would see me in the streets, I started to make backup plans, knowing that she wasn't going to be a source of any temporary support for me. I contacted my sister, brother, and aunt, who all were shocked because that is not how our family has ever operated. "Of course," all three said, "come here." Of course, all three have drawbacks like the distance it will put between me and my beloved grandchildren. Well, my sister, who was livid and also close to my daughter, called my daughter, unbeknownst to me, out on her behavior. She asked her how on earth she could let her mom be homeless if it actually came to that. My daughter said, "She won't be homeless. She has you guys." My sister said yes, and then she won't be near the grandbabies. My daughter said, "Well, sometimes sacrifices have to be made." Side note, I am the only grandparent in their lives as they, her psychologist husband, and her alienated his parents 10 years ago and haven't spoken to any of his family since. The grandbabies do not know nor have ever met a single person from his side. Anyway, since the phone call with my sister, my daughter refuses to talk to me. I honestly have not made efforts to reach out to her much, because when I do, she doesn't answer or has her husband answer my inquiries. I have been able to continue a relationship with the grands, but I have to go through the son-in-law to arrange it. My grandson is so attached to me because I was his primary caregiver until kindergarten while his parents worked. I was already caring for Mom, so it was no problem to care for him too. They did start giving me $300 a month starting the second or third year of watching him, which I appreciated, the point being, it will destroy him as much as me. if I have to move to another state. So I have managed to stay in this apartment that I can't afford with school money, maxing out credit cards, refinancing my car, some gig work, and selling items on eBay. I am frantically putting out resumes, etc., to try and stay close to the grandbabies. Yesterday was Mother's Day. I received a generic Happy Mother's Day message in a group text, and that was it. Not a boo the rest of the day. In our family, Mother's Day is huge. Brunch, flowers, cards, acknowledgement. I didn't even know the group text included me because the first name was not mine, so I thought it was sent by someone on accident. I later texted her and said something to the effect of, "Although things are strange right now, I did want to wish you a happy Mother's Day today, and thank you for bringing my 2 precious grandbabies into the world." To which she replied, "I included you in a group text at 9 a.m. this morning. I'm sorry if you did not see it." Direct quote, I responded, "How personal, thank you. Kiss the babies. Hope you are all having a great day. Enjoy the sunshine." Her response, nothing. I'm not sure where to go from here. I am heartbroken. I want to return to the close relationship we had before, but I'm also so disappointed in what has transpired. She knows that I am struggling financially, grieving my mother, scared, and basically alone. I get that none of that is her doing. I guess I just expected more compassion and grace from her. In any case, I am at a loss of how to fix this. I want reconciliation, but I also do not want to grovel for scraps of her attention. Looking for advice on whether or not I should keep trying or move on. Thank you. To update this post, it's after midnight here. But I have spent this evening reading the missing reasons that was suggested to me and also reflecting on the constructive posts. After reading through all of it, I understood that my perception of her childhood, the situation we're in now, and the journey to getting here are most likely very different. I wanted to know her perception and how to move forward to healing. I decided to call her on the off chance that she would answer, and surprisingly, she did. I began by apologizing to her for overwhelming her with my issues, and that I understood her need to have boundaries, and that I would work on extricating myself from her orbit. I apologize if any of my actions came off to her as passive-aggressive. I wasn't trying to accept for my petty Mother's Day message, but that doesn't make it less inflammatory or hurtful, so I'm sorry. I asked her to tell me what I could do differently going forward to try and repair what has been done. Her response, "I'm paraphrasing, Mom, to be honest. This has blown up to be much bigger than it needed to be. I'm going through some stuff of my own, stuff I'm not comfortable talking about right now, and stuff at work, stuff with the kids. And when you complained about the job rejection, it was the straw that broke the camel's back. I just blew up. I didn't feel like listening to one more person's complaints or whining. And so I just blurted out, 'Fix it. You aren't coming here.' She said, 'I mean that. You aren't coming here.' But I could have said it in a more loving manner. I asked her if I had just ignored her telling me that in the past, and she said, 'Yes and no. I've alluded to it, but I'm at fault too for not just slamming it on the table.' She went on to say that in reality, this situation would have just been a call from her to me the next day to say, 'Hey, sorry about my crappy mood.' But in the interim, her aunt calls her and tells her what a horrible child she is, and immediately her ID gaff shield is up, and she's burrowed in now. She said, 'I get that I could have been gentler in the delivery, but people need to mind their business, and you should have protected my position with her.' I asked her about her childhood and if she had trauma that I wasn't aware of, and she said, 'How can anyone escape childhood without trauma, Mom? I lost a brother, I lost grandparents, I lost friends, nasty crap happens.' I asked her if it was the void of a father, and she laughed and said she never once felt that void. She said she had her grandpa and uncles, and they were the only male presence she needed. I asked her if she was happy in her childhood, and she said, 'With 100% certainty, Mom, you gave me the best childhood. I will never complain about that.' Now, if we are talking later, then I will say that we have had some issues with healthy boundaries. And although our family has always operated a certain way that we accept and are used to, my husband is not. I have to consider his feelings in all things, and his feelings are that we need to have a healthy space between us. I would love for all of us to live in one big house like the Waltons, but he isn't wired like that. And I have to respect his wishes first and foremost because he is my family. I asked if she thought my grandparenting was overly intrusive or obsessive, and she said yes, and I love it. Don't ever change that. You can ease up on the parenting of me, but never the grandparenting of them. She went on to tell me how much her grandparents' consistent presence impacted the positivity in her self-esteem and self-image, and she wanted the same for hers. I asked about my returning to school, and if that bothered her and felt like I was wasting my time, and she said, "Absolutely not. I'm so proud of you for doing that. It was so far outside your comfort zone, and you took a leap of faith, and I support you 100%. She said she thought it was a great idea, and that's why she suggested it. I said maybe I should have put Graham in a home and just got a regular job. She said, "Mom, who knew Grandma was going to be sick for so long? You are an awesome daughter, and Graham was lucky to have the love and care you gave her. I am just saying up front that I don't think that is in my wheelhouse. I'm sorry, it isn't for me. I'm sure glad it was in you because I would hate for Graham to have gone to a home. So we've agreed to meet for lunch soon, not real soon. We agree to set and honor healthy boundaries, and I'm going to work on my emotional attachment issues and step back from their orbit. I want to thank everyone who had strong, harsh, blunt, yet constructive criticism. I wouldn't have had the nerve to call or admit my mistakes without reflecting on your valid points of view, so thank you so much." I was thinking of asking her to come on and repeat herself, but then I thought all of the naysayers on here will just accuse me of impersonating her, so what would be the point? Still, I want you to know that for those of you who wanted to twist my words, inject seedy innuendo, false narratives, and paint me as a complete degenerate, I still took your points of view into consideration too. Peace to you all, and thanks again. Good night, or good morning, really. Now for a few comments before the update. Comment 1. See, I think you did think she was your backup plan. Otherwise, why would you have been so upset by this? I could tell my parents I wouldn't take them in, and they'd need to sort things out on their own. And I am positive they'd be just like, "Okay, we can do that," instead of calling multiple meetings about it. Also, the way you keep laying compliments on and saying your family doesn't operate that way. I don't know, man, you raised her, so obviously your family does operate this way. But you're coming across in this post as trying to be manipulative. Why did it take your daughter having a serious talk with you before you began making backup plans? What was your prior plan? Are your backup plans, in fact, just shit-talking your daughter to your other family? Instead of saying something polite like, "Daughter can't take me in," because she has 2 young children right now and enough on her plate. I don't know, it honestly sounds to me, from what you wrote, that you blew this up into a way bigger thing than it needed to be, and are responsible for her not talking to you because you are failing to just be normal about stuff. You're an adult. You're not even retirement age. You can find a job and an apartment and a roommate if necessary. If you need to lean on someone emotionally about it, that person should not be your daughter. I understand that in single-parent relationships, the roles of emotional support get blurred, but you've got to start setting them straight and going for emotional support to people who aren't your daughter, while at the same time, not trash-talking her to people, know her. Jesus flipping Christ. Why are you staying in the apartment you can't afford? Find a roommate or find a new tenant and get out of the lease and find one you can afford. I suspect if you actually begin acting like an adult here, things will sort out. Comment 2. The point being, it will destroy him as much as me if I have to move to another state. I'm going to be brutally honest with you here. It won't destroy your grandson if you move. He's a kid and will adapt to a yearly visit. You are using that as an excuse to martyr yourself, and it won't end well for you. Go, move in with your sister, and take care of your own life. I get that you raised your daughter to have an indebtedness to family and made many sacrifices for her. However, she is on her own path currently, and has been clear with you what it looks like. Standing around going further into financial debt is not going to shift anything with her. You are 60. You do not have a lot of time to get yourself okayed for any kind of retirement or major illness, and you do not have a social safety net with your kid. Crying about it won't change it. Believe her and adjust your plans accordingly. Maybe she's behaving badly towards you. Maybe you emotionally leaned on her too much when she was growing up. Parentification. And she's decided cutting ties is best for her. Probably stuff you aren't telling us because you don't even realize it. Hey, maybe you are correct with your innuendo, and her husband is a Machiavellian mastermind, destroying your relationship with her. The reasons why she's making her choices don't matter. You only have control over how you proceed. Don't burn your own life down to test out if she'd really turn her back on you, because she has already decided to. Get your financial house in order. Now for the update. Thanks for sticking with me through this saga. So, a lot has happened since the last post. Remember how I was struggling to find work and stay near my grandkids? Well, things took a turn for the worse. I got an eviction notice. Yeah, the landlord had enough of my late payments. I was scrambling, trying to figure out what to do next, when my daughter called. Out of the blue, right? She said she wanted to talk. I thought maybe she had a change of heart, but no. She called to tell me she was getting a divorce. Her husband had been having an affair with a colleague, and she found out. My heart sank for her, but I can't lie, a part of me was angry. Here she was dealing with her own mess, and I was about to be homeless. I didn't tell her about the eviction right away. I was too proud, and I didn't want to add to her stress. But my sister, she's got a big mouth. She told my daughter everything. Next thing I know, my daughter's at my door, crying, saying she's sorry for everything. She offered to let me stay with her temporarily. I was relieved, but also felt like I was her last resort. We were living together, trying to navigate this new dynamic, when my daughter lost her job. The school district was downsizing. Since she was going through a divorce, they thought she might be too distracted. It was a low blow. Now, both of us were jobless under the same roof, and the tension was thick. I started to see my daughter in a new light. She was struggling, trying to keep it together for her kids. I realized how much I resented her for not being there for me when I needed her. But now I saw her pain. It was a humbling experience. Then, one day I got a call from a local community college. They needed an interim teacher for a few courses. And my name came up. I couldn't believe it. I took the job, and with my first paycheck, I helped pay some bills at my daughter's place. It felt good to contribute, to feel useful again. But life has a funny way of kicking you when you're down. My daughter's ex-husband decided he wanted full custody of the kids, claiming we were both unfit to care for them. It was a nightmare. We had to pool our resources, hire a lawyer, and fight for those kids. It was during this time that I saw my daughter's true strength. She fought like a lioness. The court battle was brutal, but in the end, we won. The judge saw through the ex-husband's lies. My daughter kept custody, and I was granted the right to stay with them as a supportive family member. It was a bittersweet victory. We were emotionally drained, but we had each other, and we had the kids. Now, we're slowly rebuilding our lives. My daughter's looking for a new job, and I'm still teaching. We've learned to lean on each other, to forgive. It's not perfect, but it's a start. I've realized that family isn't just about being there when things are good. It's about sticking together when they're not. I'm not sure what the future holds, but for now, we're taking it one day at a time. Thanks for reading. Am I the idiot for dumping my boyfriend after he neglected me? During my cancer treatment and plan to sell my house, I, 51-year-old female, have been dating my boyfriend, 52-year-old male, for 7 years. We're both divorced. I have kids, mostly grown. We live in a house that I own. We have no shared property, and he would never consider marriage. He is very private, independent, and quirky. I have no access to his finances. He gives me money for bills. We get along well, don't fight, and have enough in common to enjoy time together. He has never been romantic and doesn't like giving gifts or celebrating much. We both have decent jobs. We had a healthy intimacy life. I was diagnosed with late-stage ovarian cancer in January. It had spread to multiple organs. I asked him if he wanted to walk away before I told my friends and family I had cancer. He chose to stay and said he would never leave me. I had some initial surgeries, and it was made clear that he isn't a good caregiver. He couldn't check on me, manage medications, bring food and water. When I started chemo, I arranged for other people to take me and set up a meal train to feed us. He did drive me to a number of appointments when I strictly needed a ride. I've lost all my hair. I'm tired, slow, and sick often. I had my birthday in April, and my boyfriend did not give me a card or gift or do anything for me. His birthday is 3 days before mine, and even though I'm sick, I ordered him a gift from Amazon, bought dinner takeout, and made him a cake. Ever since he blew off my birthday, I have lost all my investment in the relationship. Chemo has been successful. We've known all along that if chemo worked, I would have a major operation in mid-May. I got scheduled for an open hysterectomy and cancer debulking surgery on May 13th. It has a 4-week recovery time. As my surgery was approaching, he scheduled himself for a knee procedure 2 days after my surgery. I expressed to him that this was bad timing, and he said he didn't have a choice. He said his knee pain had suddenly grown unbearable. His knee has bothered him for the entire 7 years that we have dated, and he decided that being on crutches after my surgery wasn't a conflict in his eyes. He took the week before my surgery off work and went camping and hiking. He did not take time off work to spend with me when I was recovering from surgery. He worked while I was hospitalized in another city. Then he had his knee procedure. I came home to him on crutches from an elective surgery, unable to care for himself, let alone me. My family and friends have been here caring for me. He asked me to do things for him when I can barely care for myself. His aunt called me to wish me well before my surgery and express her concern that he shouldn't have an elective procedure at the same time. She said that she believes he is having PTSD because his mom died of brain cancer when he was a teenager after many years of failed surgeries and treatments. His aunt raised him after his mom died, and she said this behavior is out of character for him, and she is so surprised by it. I've lost my warm feelings for him. I think we should go our separate ways or just be friends, but I feel guilty. I'm being very detached from him now, and I don't like my own negativity. Now, for a few comments before the update. Comment 1. I'm a lifelong singleton in my mid-40s. People are always telling me that I'll have regrets about not having a partner when I'm medically frail and in need of someone to take care of me. Hearing your story is making me wonder, which is worse? Being alone and having to take care of yourself during one of the most challenging moments of your life? Or living with someone who is indifferent to you while taking care of yourself during one of the most challenging moments of your life? I gotta think it's the second. At least in the first scenario, you're not doing extra work. Comment 2. When you asked if he wanted to leave, he said, "I'd never leave you." And yet he's emotionally left you a long time ago. Don't feel bad. He hasn't really done much of anything to support you or be your husband. He's lived in your house as a roommate, a shitty roommate. Even my friend who lived with me would have done more for me in your situation than this man has. Get better and get out of there. Health isn't forever. This might very well happen again. It would be easier to deal with without the stress of realizing your husband doesn't give a shoot about you. Now, for the update. Thanks for the support on my last update. So, here's what's been going on. After I got back from the hospital, things just kept spiraling. My boyfriend, still hobbling around on crutches, had the nerve to ask me to fetch him things. I mean, I'm barely standing myself. And he's acting like I'm the caregiver. It's like he's completely oblivious to my situation. I've been leaning on my family and friends who've been absolute angels. But it's exhausting pretending everything's okay when it's not. Then, out of the blue, his ex-wife shows up. Apparently she heard about my surgery and wanted to offer support. But the way she hovered around him, you'd think she was there for him, not me. It was like I was invisible in my own house. She'd bring him his favorite foods, fluff his pillows, and they'd chat and laugh like old times. It made my blood boil, but I didn't say a word. I just watched them, feeling like a stranger in my own life. One day, I overheard a conversation that made my heart sink. My boyfriend, thinking I was asleep, told his ex that he felt trapped because of my illness, that he wanted to be there for me, but didn't sign up for this. It was like a punch to the gut. I wanted to confront him, but what was the point? I was too weak and, frankly, too heartbroken. As if that wasn't enough, my oldest kid came to me with some shocking news. They'd been doing some digging, suspecting my boyfriend wasn't being honest about his finances. Turns out, he's been hiding a pretty hefty sum of money. Money that could have easily covered a caregiver for me, or at least made things a bit easier. But no, he kept it a secret, while I scrimped and saved and worried about every penny. I felt like a fool, taken for a ride by someone I trusted, but I didn't have the energy to fight it. I just wanted to focus on getting better, on surviving. So I kept quiet, swallowed my pride, and let it slide. Then, As if things couldn't get any worse, his knee miraculously got better. Just like that, he was off crutches, moving around like nothing happened. He even had the gall to suggest a trip to celebrate my recovery, as if I could just forget everything and play happy couple. But the last straw came when I found out he'd been talking to a real estate agent about selling my house. My house. He said it was too much for me to handle, that we should downsize. But it was clear he just wanted a cut of the sale, a way to cash in on my hard work. I couldn't take it anymore. I told him it was over, that I wanted him out of my house and my life. It was the hardest thing I've ever done, but also the most freeing. My friends and family rallied around me, supporting my decision and helping me through the aftermath. He left without much fuss, which was a relief. I guess he knew he'd been caught out. And now, I'm slowly rebuilding my life, my health, and my trust in people. It's not easy, but I'm getting there, one day at a time. Thanks for reading. Am I the idiot for staying with my boyfriend after he hit me because I talked to my ex about our son, together for 3 years? We seem to have this recurring argument about him being jealous of my oldest son's father. Today, I received a call from my son's school about some trouble he got in with his classmate. I called his dad to inform him, which is something we always do in situations concerning our child. I always communicate matters with my son to his father and vice versa. We strictly discuss our son, and nothing else whatsoever. There's never any inappropriate interaction between my son's dad and I, ever. When the phone call was over, we continued the conversation through text. This must have rubbed my boyfriend the wrong way, because his body language appeared tense all of a sudden. I asked him what was wrong, and he responded that he didn't like the fact that some of my passwords are my son's name, because he has the same name as his dad. I told him my passwords are just that, my child's name, not his dad's. He seemingly got over it, and we moved on. Fast forward an hour later, he comes in the room and tells me he will text me later while he's at band practice, and that he wants me to respond back as fast as I responded to my son's father earlier today. He never texts me while he's at band practice. He always calls after, or I'll just see him when he gets home. So I told him I'm not responding at all, since he's comparing himself to my oldest son's dad again, and only texting me just to see if I'll respond in a certain time. This gets him even more upset, and he begins raising his voice. I go to try to leave the room to avoid arguing, and he blocks me from leaving and telling me I'm not leaving. So I start yelling for him to move out of my way. My boyfriend is a huge guy, 6'1", 260 pounds, compared to my petite self, 5'0", 164 pounds. By this point, my 1-year-old is crying and I'm trying to get to him. My boyfriend keeps pushing my hand every time I grab the doorknob and using his weight to keep the door from opening. So I hit him in his shoulder, not hard at all. He probably barely felt it. And he hit me back way harder and in my stomach. I'm currently 6 months pregnant. So I turn the other way and start to cry. Instead of apologizing, he starts to blame me, saying it was a reflex because I hit him first and he didn't mean to hit my stomach. He also said that he didn't even hit me that hard, which was false. He tries to grab me and I lash out in anger, hitting, yelling, and kicking. When he finally let me leave the room, he follows me to the other room, demanding we talk right now. I told him no, and he proceeds to pull and yank me off of the bed to get me to go with him until I yelled at him to leave me alone. Our 1-year-old is next to me while he's doing this, so he screams and cries for me to pick him up. I told my boyfriend he's scaring the baby and he just keeps trying to take him from me so he can put him down and pull me out of the room. He eventually gave up and said, I'm using our son as an excuse to avoid talking. I'm just at a loss for words right now. Just to clarify, we weren't in front of my son when I hit and kicked him. I hit and kicked him to get into the room where my son was crying. Now for a few comments before the update. Comment 1. Your next move should be to take your kids and leave immediately. Go anywhere, even if it's a shelter. Do not come back because he is not a safe person for you and your children to be around. Comment 2. Pregnancy is often the time when abusers start to become violent. He will probably love bomb you next. Please prioritize the safety of your child if your own safety is not sufficient motivation. This situation does not improve. Now for the update. Thanks for sticking around. Here's what's been going down. So, after that mess with my boyfriend, things cooled off for a bit. But then, my son's dad dropped the news. He's moving across the country for a new job. He said it's a huge opportunity, one he can't pass up. I was shocked and honestly a bit scared. How would this affect our son? We agreed to figure out a visitation schedule, but I could tell this was going to be rough. My boyfriend, well, he took the news like a kid who just got told Christmas was canceled. He was all, good riddance, and now I won't have to worry about him anymore. But I could see right through it. He was happy because he thought this meant he'd have less competition, like my son's dad was some rival he had to beat. A few days later, my son got into another fight at school. This time it was bad. The other kid ended up in the hospital, and I was horrified that my son's never been violent, so I couldn't understand what was happening. I had to go to the school, talk to the principal, the whole 9 yards. My boyfriend tagged along, acting all supportive, but I could tell he was just there to make sure I didn't call my son's dad. When we got home, my boyfriend started acting like he was the man of the house, laying down rules for my son, saying we need to be a real family now that his dad was out of the picture. I didn't like it, not one bit. My son was confused and upset, and I was stuck in the middle. Then, my boyfriend did something that changed everything. He proposed, right there in the middle of all this chaos. He said he wanted to make things right and step up as a father figure. I was overwhelmed, and I said yes. I thought maybe this was what we needed, a fresh start. But I was wrong. So wrong. The next week, my son's dad called. He was reconsidering the move, said he couldn't bear to be away from his kid. I was relieved, but I didn't know how to tell my boyfriend. I decided to wait for the right moment. That moment never came. My boyfriend found out through a text he saw on my phone. He lost it, accused me of going behind his back, of still having feelings for my son's dad. It was a nightmare. He stormed out, and I was left there, feeling like the worst person in the world. I tried to call him to explain, but he wouldn't answer. Then I got a text from him saying he needed time to think. I felt so alone, and I started to doubt my decision to accept his proposal. Was I just trying to fill a void? Was I scared of being a single mom? A couple of days later, my boyfriend came back. He said he wanted to work things out, but he had conditions. He wanted us to move away, start over somewhere new, just the three of us. He said it was the only way we could be a family without interference. I was torn. I didn't want to take my son away from his dad, but I also didn't want to lose my boyfriend. In the end, I agreed. I told myself it was for the best, that we needed to be away from all the drama. We started making plans to move. I didn't tell my son's dad yet. I was too afraid of the confrontation. But as the days went by, I felt this growing pit in my stomach. I knew I was making a mistake, but I couldn't stop it. Now I'm sitting here, surrounded by half-packed boxes, wondering if I've just ruined my son's life, and for what? A guy who can't handle not being the center of attention? Thanks for reading. If you like this video, you'll probably like these too. Also, while you're here, please consider subscribing. It's your support that keeps this channel alive and allows me to make better and longer videos. Have a great day.